Welcome in, everybody. It's Monday, November 10th, 10 a.m. Eastern here in Canada. And we are covering some locals' perspectives on the disappearance of 4-year-old Gus Lamont. If you don't know what we're talking about, I will be reading from this Daily Mail update and also giving you some intel from one of our own subscribers here, Kaika, who is from Australia and has been talking to the locals. And so she's got a few more tidbits that she sent me via email that I'm going to read to you as well on this case that we've been covering. Let's get at it and welcome in, do all the YouTubey things. So this case is interesting, and I've already done a few readings on it. It's definitely more than meets the eye, I would say, with this case. It's some locals are whispering too, but we're going to learn in this video the culture a little bit out in the Australian outback here where Gus Lamont went missing, September 27th. So let's read this article. A missing Outback Boy's transgender grandmother greeted the male reporter with a pump-action shotgun as we reveal little Gus could have gone missing 6 months ago. When I get home, I'm at my daughter's in the mountains. So we got snowed in, and I forgot my tarot cards. So later this week, we will do a reading to see just how long ago, before he was reported missing, September 27th, if there's any facts to the claims that he might have been missing rather for longer than since he was reported missing. If you've been following me and what I've been doing with this case, I have, in my opinion, I suspect there's some family or somebody that knows the family related to Gus. I have determined myself doing some readings that I think somebody inside the family, and it's interesting because um, we're starting to hear some locals maybe talking that something doesn't quite feel right here. But let's read on. Okay, so up in a remote gravel track near the dusty outback town of Belliley North in South Australia is a little house that time forgot. The two-bedroom bungalow with its cracked walls and sun-baked tin roof sits on a 10-acre plot which is being grazed by 4 moth-eating sheep. Alongside its driveway, you'll find a half a dozen cars in the various states of decay. On the veranda is a child's bicycle with stabilizers on the back wheels. The place appears to have been abandoned some time ago. Was it abandoned? Let's find out. Visitors who dare approach the front door can glimpse the deserted and Spartan interior. In the kitchen, the doors on the fridge freezer are ajar, and on the wall is a calendar someone has filled with daily appointments until March. They haven't touched it since. This is the home of Josh Lamont. Josh is Gus's father. Uh, this is the home of Josh Lamont, a sometime rock musician whose band, the Cut Snakes, played the pubs and bars of South Australia before disbanding during COVID. Property records show he bought it for 40,000 euros in March of 2021, or the Australian dollar would have been 81,000 AUDs. March 2021, and around that time, his first son, a blonde haired boy named Gus, was born. That was now a lifetime away, for on the evening of September 27th, police called on Josh to say that Gus had been reporting missing from Oak Park Station, an outback sheep farm roughly 2 hours drive north. So imagine you're Gus's father and you don't hear that your son is missing from anybody in the family. You hear it from the locals. No, sorry, the local police. The police call you, not your ex-wife, not where he disappeared from, the grandparents' home, but from the police. Here's little Gus Lamont. I feel pretty bad for this little guy myself. Look at him. Look at his hair. Sweet little guy wearing his t-shirt says "My Mummy." He was reported missing again September 27th from his home near Adelaide. Here is the picture we've talked about of Josie, the grandfather, who is now a transgender woman, grandmother Josie Murray. And when the Daily Mail arrived, I showed that video. The reporter was met with Josie, now a woman in this picture. He's had his breast augmented, but he sounds like a male, and he's not wearing his wig here. And he had a shotgun outside, and his excuse was it was there for animals. But let's read on. The child had been living. He had the shotgun out rather because to shoot local animals, a snake or something. I think he said the child had been living there with his mother, Lamont's girlfriend, Jessica Murray, and grandparents Josie and Shannon. Gus had apparently last been seen around 5 p.m. at the grandparents' home playing on a mound of red dirt that he used as a sand pit. By the time he was called in for dinner, a half an hour later, he'd vanished. No one has seen him since. A huge search involving dozens of police officers, soldiers, a small army of volunteers, and an Aboriginal tracker was quickly mounted. Yet, despite scouring tens of thousands of acres using drones and helicopters, and last week draining a small lake beside the property, it came to naught. The closest anyone has come to finding something resembling a clue came in the early days when a single footprint, was found in the dust 500 yards from where he was last seen. In the meantime, what began as a simple missing persons case has become a major news event, drawing a collection of news reporters, TV crews, and TikTok true crime obsessiveness to this remote corner of South Australia, roughly 4 hours drive from Adelaide. Adelaide. Various outlandish explanations for Gus's disappearance involving everything from wild animals to disused mine shafts. Oh, that sounds familiar. Another mine shaft situation have been investigated and discounted. And as the case enters its seventh week, police seem to be no nearer to working out what has become of the missing child. In fact, there seems to be more unanswered questions now that there were when he first vanished. All of which brings us back to Josh Lamont's house and the calendar hanging on the wall. Since March. March. Interesting, isn't it? One of the last appointments it lists for March was term starts, presumably marking the introduction days for Gus at a local nursery school where he was due to start full time in January. Importantly, that trial date was the occasion when the official police photo of Gus in the gray and blue pig t shirt appears to have been taken. As far as we can establish, that nursery school visit also represents the last time anybody outside of the child's immediate family can remember seeing him. The Daily Mail has visited almost every property in Junta, the nearest town to Oak Park Station, populated by only 60 people. While many residents knew the Murray family and were aware that Jessica had two children, Gus has a younger brother named Ronnie. No one could recall catching a glimpse of the boy since he was a baby. Imagine that. Since he was a baby. Local residents don't remember seeing him since he was a baby. But that is bizarre. Neighbors in Bellelea North said similar. Meanwhile, in Jamestown, where the nearest pub to Bellelea North is located, a bar worker said that while Josh Lamont is a fairly regular customer, he hadn't seen Gus since 2024. Put another way, the missing boy seems to have barely left his home in the 6 months leading up to the day he vanished. The only people who had seen him alive during that period were the ones who then reported him missing. A casual observer might find this peculiar, but in the Australian outback, geography dictates that families can live very secluded lives. So I guess to give them the benefit of the doubt here, did they live that secluded that nobody saw this little boy for the 6 months prior to his disappearance? What about his nursery school? Was he not supposed to go to school? Like, what happened to that? It's a little curious to me. While they are saying here that having visited the outback, the locals say they can live a extremely secluded life. I still find it interesting since he was supposed to be going to nursery school. Um, Oak Park Station is a case in point, spanning some 150,000 acres of scrubland and desert, an area roughly the size of the former county of Middlesex. It is 30 miles from the nearest major road. Getting from the house where the Murrays lived to town takes an hour. You then find yourself in Junta, but it's more of a collection of houses than a town. It consists of two petrol stations, one pub, a post office, and a police station. The closest medium sized grocery store is in Peterborough, another hour away. The Murray family have been largely silent since Gus vanished until a few days ago. Their only detailed public statements had come via a 150-word statement issued by Bill Harbison, a family friend, 3 days after the boy went missing. We're devastated by the disappearance of our beloved Gus on Saturday afternoon, it read. We're struggling to comprehend what has happened. We miss him more than words can express. There has been no update from the family, and when the Daily Mail knocked on their door last week to gently ask whether they had any further details to share, we got a hostile welcome from Josie Murray. We've covered that with the shotgun. In fact, she was brandishing a pump action shotgun. Who are you? Get out. You are trespassing. Get out, she yelled. Are you deaf? Get out. We all watched that in horror, actually. If you missed it, go check it out. When our reporter attempted to apologize, she was told to shut your face and get out. The encounter left our reporter shaken, but the police, sorry, um, later sought to portray the incident as a misunderstanding, saying Josie wasn't using the shotgun to threaten her visitor, but was carrying it because she'd seen a snake on the porch. Okay, well, let's listen to a little bit more on what people locally have to say about that. Local Deputy Police Commissioner Linda Williams insisted there was no intent for the person having that firearm at that time to be threatened. Mm, I venture to slightly disagree because we watched it. We saw the video. We saw the video. Look at look at this. All of the people looking to search. Here is the farm, the 60,000 hectare farm where Gus's grandparents, little Gus and his brother Ronnie, and that his mom lived. Grandmother Shannon, Josie transgender granddad now become transgender granddad becoming um, a woman, and Gus, his brother, and his mom. And his mom has also not been seen. Neither has his dad. His mom and dad had separated, and like it was said earlier, and dad lived 2 hours away. But he hasn't been seen either in his home since March. So it begs the question here, what has been actually going on in this story? Is there more to it? Is there more? Because he was reported missing September 27th, but nobody has seen him for up to 6 months. So it's a little curious, right? It's a little curious. Okay. That explanation about the snake, however, has raised several questions. Firstly, snakes are protected in South Australia. Didn't that make it illegal for Murray to shoot one? Secondly, are pump action shotguns an appropriate tool for dispatching a reptile at close range? And thirdly, if dangerous snakes really are in the habit of taking up the residence on the porch, why did the family allow their 4-year-old child to play unsupervised outside on the day he vanished? The police have yet to address any of these points, just as they are refusing to comment on the question of when Gus was last seen by anybody outside his immediate family. I mean, it seems odd. I mean, the police here are not being transparent, but you know, they may, just like hopefully in Jack and Lily's case, have some suspects and are just saying nothing to see here. And with all hope and prayer, are actually looking into something maybe a little more nefarious than them just walking away. Because, we're hearing this a lot, these young kids that just walk away, just no evidence of anything, but they've just walked away on their own. What we know for sure is that Josie Cuts an unorthodox figure in this God fearing community where social attitudes hark back to the era of Crocodile Dundee, for she happens to be a transgender woman. Born as Robert Murray, Josie is actually Jesse's biological father. Okay, Josie is actually Jessica. So Josie is Gus's biological grandfather, now Josie. Sorry. Yeah, let me just repeat that, make sure everybody's understanding. Jessica is the name of little Gus's mother. And Josie, the transgender grandma, is the biological dad and grandfather, dad to Jessica Gus's mom, and grandfather to um, Gus. And we didn't know which one was which member of the biological family before. Um, Josie's wife, Shannon, is Jess's biological mother. Okay. So they are both biological parents. Now I'm getting it. So they are both biological parents, but somehow he decided to transgender into a female. Okay, so now I'm getting it. They're both biological parents. Locals say Josie transitioned in 2015, around the time Shannon's father, Vincent, a Second World War hero who'd ran the farm for several decades, died. Locals say Josie transition. I'm just trying to piece it together in my mind. In 2015, around the time Shannon's father, Vincent, a Second World War hero who'd ran the ranch for several decades, died. Okay, so it's on the mother's family side. The mother's family side is where they inherited the farm from. People were obviously a bit shocked, one told the Daily Mail, but over time they came to terms with it. And for the most part, people have come around to the view of live and let live. The family has since led largely unremarkable lives. However, locals say the years since Gus's birth brought some conflict between the generations. I told you all in my readings, I picked up that somebody felt they had put a lot of work into this farm, and to be dismissed and not to get the benefit of all the years of work of pouring into this farm. So maybe it's somebody on Shannon's side. I was picking up Gus's dad or a worker, but we're going to dive into that a little bit deeper with tarot cards later. But listen, specifically, friends of Josh say that he had spent extended periods of time at Oak Park Station, but had not moved out of a couple of years ago due to personality, but had moved out a couple of years ago due to personality clash with Josie. Ah, so it seems that I was right when I said I had picked up on Gus's dad feeling anger. Interesting, interesting, interesting. He and Jess have since enjoyed a complex love life, described by one acquaintance as a sort of commuter relationship where they remain a couple but largely live in different homes. Although Josh tolerated his children living on the remote farm while they were infants, he doesn't think it's safe for kids to be out there, a friend said, and was planning to move Jess and the boys into his home in the Bellelay North later this year. Interesting. That would have reduced the amount of time the little boy spent being ferried to and from his school. God, it's giving me Jack and Lily and Sebastian vibes, kind of a combo here. On September 27th, the night Gus vanished, Josh was found asleep in his home by police. It's unclear why Jess had not phoned to tell him their child was missing, but analysis of his movements that day are believed to have ruled out any involvement in the disappearance. He has since visited Oak Park Station to assist with the search and is now believed to be living with family members in the suburbs of Adelaide. Meanwhile, the known facts surrounding the case are as follows. At 5:30 p.m., Shannon had realized Gus was missing. And with the sun starting to sink, the family spent the next 3 hours frantically searching their Ramley homestead after darkness fell at 8:30 p.m. They called the police. I find that 3 hours is a long time before calling the police. I don't know. I understand calling the police is a big deal when you're not sure. In fact, if that's the case in this story and that's how it really went down, but it seems to me like it might be a little bit longer than it should have been or needed to be. A major search began that night involving helicopters, drones, and infrared cameras. The next day and most of that week, convoys of trucks and trail bikes brought search teams to the farm while teams of divers explored its water tanks, ponds, and reservoirs. But the dusty footprint found after 3 days is the nearest anyone has come to locating Gus, with the police saying it showed a very similar boot pattern to the pair he'd been wearing, along with a long sleeved Minions t shirt and a gray sun hat. A very similar pattern, but on the last article we read, they're not 100% sure that was Gus's footprint. Yet an Aboriginal tracker concluded that it could have been there for a week before the night went missing. See, in the absence of any further footprints, the trail went cold. Unbelievable. So look at this farm here. Does it take 3 adults 3 hours to search for him here? Now, they probably walked out, I get it, and maybe we're looking behind shrubs. What do you think? Do you think they delayed calling the police because something nefarious went on? Or would it really take 3 hours to search with like the wide open, expansive fields? I mean, I guess to see if he was under a tree or whatnot, but I mean, I think an adult could search those buildings, all of them probably pretty well within an hour. If you, I mean, how many nooks and crannies are in these sheds, so it just seems weird. And then you would likely spread out, right? I don't know. After a week, rescuers admitted the operation had shifted to a recovery phase with the focus on locating remains. Woo, that wound down a few days later. However, a team returned on October 17th for another 4-day search, and at the end of that month, they drained about 3 million liters of water from a dam. In the absence of evidence regarding Gus's fate, various conspiracy theories are doing the rounds, and police has discounted most of them, particularly those involving wild animals. Dingoes, a wild dog, had previously been responsible for abducting small children, but they are precious few in the land around Yunta, since sheep farmers tend to shoot them rather on site. So dingoes are likely ruled out. The region is also protected by 1,200-mile dog fence to protect livestock. So a 1,200-mile dog fence to prevent livestock, meaning he couldn't have gotten that far. Crocodiles, which inhabit more tropical northern regions of Australia, are not found in the south. And Gus is too big to be taken by an eagle, and if he'd been attacked by a wild pig, searchers would have discovered evidence of a bloody struggle. Exactly. Local topography makes it almost impossible that a stranger could have abducted him. Yeah, because we would have seen Grandpa with a shotgun there. Because we looked in the last video, you can see the dust from miles away from cars, and you could hear them coming down towards the house. It's a 40-kilometer trek down a private road to their house. They would have seen and heard somebody coming near them. The nearest major road is the Barrier Highway, which takes long-distance truckers to New South Wales. But to reach it, Gus would have had to walk 30 miles. And had he simply wandered off and perished, some remains ought to have been found by now. So, some 6 weeks after the little boy with curly blonde hair went missing, this great Australian soap opera shows little signs of ending, and every passing day seems to bring more questions. To learn more about the disappearance and the search for us in Australia, listen to their podcast. So, yeah, now let's listen in to what I was sent by our beautiful Kaika. Okay, I'm going to read it. I'm not going to show you the screen because I would like to keep her real name private. So actually, I'll read to you now that I've hidden her name. Let me share. She reads, "Hey Liane, hi Liane. I heard back from my 2 friends in Australia. Annie didn't know about the case and just Googled it. And Gaia has been following it. She thinks it's very odd. She said rumors at first circulated about a snake, Gaia. Eagles, dingoes, etc., wild animals have all been ruled out, which we just heard. Gus was seen in town 2 days earlier." Okay, so 2 days prior to September 24th. Gus was seen in town earlier at the park. So listen, we've got more intel here. Thank you, Kaika, than the Daily Mail does, because they said they hadn't heard of him being seen for 6 months prior to this. But now Kaika said the locals said that he was seen in town 2 days earlier at the park, so around the 25th, and that he also had a doctor's or a hospital visit and was seen by a doctor, etc. That took the family 6 days. It took the family, however, 6 days to produce one photo of Gus. Does that seem weird to you? That seems very weird to me. No media presence, really. A family friend did read a statement early on, but none of the normal type of thing seen in missing children stuff. Now, the day before the 26th, a man called Ben, we covered this, was driving an old blue Hyundai Getz erratically about 100 kilometers, but close enough for suspicion, parked his car in the brush off the side of the road, and Ben has been also missing since. Nothing heard from or about him either, but it doesn't seem to be related to the family, or not yet, anyways. I'm not so sure about that. I got to tell you, I'm really picking up that somebody related to the family or worked at that farm, an ex-worker or a family member, has a beef and they hired somebody to take Gus. And Ben might have been that somebody. I'm not sure yet. I will dig into that later in the week with some tarot readings, but it's suspicious. And I find two missing people in that area that is so remote to go missing within one day of another seems very, very coincidental. He was driving an old blue Hyundai Getz erratically also, which is very interesting. So Josh, the father of Gus, was notified around midnight of the 27th of September that Gus was missing by police who were double checking that Gus wasn't in fact with Josh. Josh went out to search for Gus, but has also searched for Gus, but has also disappeared. Gus went to search. So he's also, this report, not been seen since March and staying in Adelaide. He did go search with them, but now has disappeared. And Jess, the mother, has not been seen by anyone either. The police have not said she's missing, so no one knows what's going on. Now they've searched far and wide for Gus. Nothing. Aboriginal trackers can't find anything. No traces of anything. Police seemingly believe he was killing a snake on the porch is Bull S BS, by the way. All snakes in Australia are a profound protected species, and it's a huge fine to kill or injure them. Seems police are doing nothing, but I can see it's a police tactic to make them feel safe, probably hoping they will speak about things freely. Apparently, John Edwards has been helping law enforcement. Saw something about it last week. I don't know who John Edwards is, but the grandpa gave a comment initially, something like, "You can't help us. Go away. No one can help us. We are working through this." Who is John Edwards? Because that is a very interesting quote. You can't help us. Go away. No one can help us. We are working through this. This is the latest she knew about grandma with the gun. So I looked up the picture. When the Daily Mail knocked on the family's door last week to gently ask whether they had any further details to share, we got a hostile welcome from Gus's transgender grandmother, Josie Marie, who was brandishing a pump action shotgun in the picture. Whoops. And I didn't want her name exposed. So listen, this part about who John Edwards is and hearing the family quoted as saying, "You can't help us. Go away. No one can help us. We are working through this." It's giving me the vibes. It's giving me the vibes that perhaps there is something to what I said, that there is some money and possibly a letter of ransom note coming in from a family member that they haven't talked to the police about. I don't know. Tell me what you think, but we are going to get deeper into this later this week with some tarot cards. Do all the you things. Thank you for being here. Love and light.